which is singled for a purpose which is forbidden on Shabbos, namely grinding, nevertheless you can move it in order to save the vessel, lefi, because shemaducha, this grinder, is secondary and it is totally negated to the garlic which is in it. Just the same thing as we said, like a pot, a cooking pot. A cooking pot is also, should be muktzah on Shabbos, right? It's a vessel, but it's a vessel for a forbidden purpose. You can't cook on Shabbos. A cooking pot is negated to the food which is inside of it, right? You have a cholent inside of your pot. You can pick the pot up. It's as though you are carrying the garlic alone. And the garlic alone is permissible to carry even for no reason at all. But when you put this garlic inside of the grinder, I'm sorry. But if you would put on top of this grinder, so in the end, you can carry it for no reason at all. But if you put on top of this grinder a loaf of bread, a piece of bread, or a child, and say, am I allowed to carry a child on Shabbos? Of course. Am I allowed to carry a piece of bread on Shabbos? Of course. So therefore, I'll put the child on top of it's the same thing with a book or anything like that. Put this food on top of the grinder and I'll move it. Are you allowed to do that? You can put it there, but you can't move the grinder. Doesn't make the grinder permissible to move. The grinder is still a vessel for Isser, and the only way you can move a vessel that is singled out for a forbidden purpose on Shabbos is legufo umakomo, to use the grinder for a permissible thing, a doorstop or something, or the grinder happens to be sitting in the middle of the table, your dinner table, and you want to move it. You need the place. So I got an idea. Let's put a child on top of it, or something permissible, and then just carry it. He says it doesn't work. Or shardavarim or other things. I'll put a little book on there or something, and move this. Good advice, great advice, but it doesn't work. Shows your Shulchan Aruch, but not enough, because you cannot move this grinder by putting something permissible on it. It has to be that always was there, already was there. Because the grinder is not secondary to a book that you put on top of it or something else that's a piece of food. Therefore, it's forbidden to move it by means of this for itself, to save the. You can move it, like we said, legufo lokomo. You can move the grinder. Legufo lokomo, find a permissible use for it, or if it happens to be in a place where you need that place. But to put something on it that's foreign to this grinder, like a piece of food or something like that, you can't do that. When can you do that? Where do we ever get the idea? In a dead body. But meis bilvad, only in a dead body do they permit you to carry what's from the sun, mechama, from the sun to the shade, by means of a kikar or tinok. In other words, by means of putting a permissible thing on it, even though it's foreign to the thing. You don't put pieces of bread on people when they're asleep or children. Nevertheless, for a dead body, it works, etc. Why? Because you have the honor of the dead person. Yesh cholkin, some people disagree, and they say that this grinder or any other vessel, if it's a vessel that is singled out for a forbidden purpose on Shabbos, like here grinding, or a hammer for pounding in nails, that it's permissible to move for the vessel itself by means of, yes, putting a piece of bread on there or putting some sort of permissible food. We just give the example, kikar vatino, because that's the example given in the Gemara, or any other thing that's permissible to carry. Some people say that, yes, if you have a grinder or something that you want to move, you can put a child on top of it or a piece of food on top of it and just move it on Shabbos. Lo amru lo hitiu l'tiltal al yedei kikar hatinok. When is it, yes, forbidden to put a piece of food on something and make it move? Ela betiltal muksa gomor. If you have something complete muksa, you have a $100 bill, it's laying on the ground, and you want to pick it up with your hands. Can you put a piece of bread on top of it and move it? No. But you let me put a piece of bread on top of a grinder, that's forbidden. He says, yeah, but that's a vessel. That's a vessel. Here it's not a vessel. You can't put a piece of bread on top of it. Also the tilta, that's forbidden. A thing that is forbidden, even l'tzorah gufo makomo, right? Namely, a piece of bread. What do you want? Like we had the other examples of things that are totally forbidden to move.
Is he allowed to hold it with something?
What did you say?
Is he allowed to hold it with something?
No. We learned before that pushing something or moving something by means of something else, like having a stick, or you take a broom, right? Here you have a few $100s are laying in the middle of your front yard. So you take a broom and you move them with the broom. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do it. Why? Because the broom is called yada arich tadami. It's called like a long hand. So maybe if there was dirt there and you wanted to move the dirt, it just happened to be that you moved these $100 bills too, maybe, but it's a little bit weak.
Then someone could just put dirt on his floor where there's the $100 bill and then sweep it up.
Let's say if you're sweeping up the dirt, yeah, cheap trick, but you could do it if you're sweeping up the dirt. But you cannot technically move things with a long stick, muksa things. You can't move it with a long stick, right? You want to take a pair of pliers or something and, move your dollar bills, or you have a very precious guitar, something that's on this. So you take a big broom and you put underneath it. You have your precious guitar is laying in the middle of your table, but it's precious. It's worth a lot of money. Things which are hefset, we said is going to be a big loss. That you can't move it either. It's very, very rich, very expensive. Very expensive. A thing that's very, very expensive, you're also not allowed to move it on Shabbos.
Could you cover it with a book?
What?
Could you cover it with a book?
Yeah, sure. You can cover it with a covering, no problem. You can cover it. Yes, you can. Covering it is no problem. And you can also move it with your elbows or with your teeth or something like that. But technically, it's a bit. You're in a difficult situation. But that's the law.
Could you hold it with a towel?
No, nothing. You cannot use an extension of your hand and hold on to anything. That's totally muktzah. If it's totally muktzah, you can't. That's not a way of moving things. Or even things that's a kalisha melechta leser. Even if it's, let's say you have a hammer, a grinder, and you want to move it from the sun, you can't do it. So you'll do it, like you said, by means of a towel, or maybe pick it up with a broom or with a dustpan. So you can't do it. It's called a yada aricht. It's called a long hand, and you're not allowed to do it. We'll get to that law. So some people say that yes, if you have this grinder, and even if it doesn't have any garlic in it, that you can put something that's foreign to the grinder on top of it. Put a piece of candy, put a book on top of it, and then you can move it. Some people say. That you can do with a grinder because it's a vessel, but everyone agrees that you cannot put a book or a piece of food or whatever on something that is totally muktzah and move it by means of that. But a vessel that's usually used for something that's a forbidden purpose, it's a kli, it's a vessel, so it's not totally muktzah. It's not muktzah gomer. You can move it. And the rabbis made leniencies that you can move a vessel which is used for a forbidden purpose, as long as it's a vessel, like this spice grinder. You can move it legufo, tzarech gufo, o makomo. Therefore, some people say that they were also lenient about putting a piece of bread on top of it and moving with the bread, or put a candy or a book on top of it, kikar tinok, even though that you're really doing a trick. What's the final opinion, right? I want to know what to do. My spice grinder is in the front yard, and I see people, it's in the sun, and people are passing by, non-Jews, and I see that they'll steal it if it's out there. It's really nice. What can I do? Can I move it? Says the main opinion is like the first opinion. Namely what? If it has garlic in it, you can move it. No garlic, you cannot do this trick by putting a piece of food there or a book on there. You want to move it, you have to move it, either make a new purpose for it, use it for a doorstop, or you have to say, wow, I really need that place in my front yard. where this is, I want to make a picnic over there or something, right? And then you can move it from that place. What's the law? Like the first opinion that says you cannot put a piece of food on this grinder and move it, or like the second opinion that's more lenient that says you can put a piece of food on it. The main is like the first opinion. But if it's going to be a really big loss, yesh lismoch al sfor acharona, then you can rely on the second opinion, right? Immediately after Shabbos, you're going to need this thing for grinding up. The president of your company is coming, and he loves ground up. You're not going to have a grinder, so they allow you to put a piece of food on that and move it. All right, we'll just start the next law.
Wait, so if you grind up the boss of the company, you can eat that?
No, that's not nice. I did not say that. I did not say that. 1 minute. Let's go back to this. We're going to have to deal with, I see you completely misunderstood what I was saying. Here we go. All right, nolad. We'll just do this quickly. Let's see this. This is what we just did, right? Kav base. Yeah, we did that. All right. Kav Gimel. In some ways, Yom Tov is more severe than Shabbat. Now, generally speaking, in Yom Tov, first of all, you're allowed to cook. And because you're allowed to cook, so you're allowed to carry a lot of things outside, food. It's called mitoch. Mitoch sheheter, because it's permissible to use it for cooking, so it's permissible also to prepare for cooking. So there's a lot of things in Yom Tov you're allowed to carry in a public domain, food and other things that are also usable on Yom Tov, right? Because you're permissible to use it for food, so you're permissible. They permit other things also. You're allowed to carry almost everything even in a public domain on Yom Tov. Yom Tov is not anywhere near as severe because you're permissible, unless you totally don't need it. That's what the mitoch means. I'm sorry. Okay, so usually it's permissible to cook, and therefore it's permissible to carry. So Yom Tov is usually much more lenient than Shabbat is. On Shabbat you can't cook and you can't carry in a public domain. On Yom Tov you can. But there's one thing that Shabbat is less lenient than Yom Tov. Yom Tov is more severe. What? Nolad. What is nolad? Nolad means if you have like a vessel and it breaks on Shabbat, it breaks, but the pieces are still usable. Right now, there's a differentiation if the pieces are still good for the original purpose. Right, like let's say you had a big serving dish that you used to serve on it. You used to put the fruits and things, and it fell down, and now it broke into 3 big pieces. These pieces are not the same thing as you had before. That's called nolad. Nolad is permissible on Shabbat. For instance, a non-Jew, here let's take a real case. A non-Jew makes a new vessel for you on Shabbat, on his own. You have a good friend, next door neighbor, and he comes over and he says, Mr. Grois, yeah, how you doing? Listen, I know today is your Sabbath day, and I just want to do you I've been making this vessel for you here. You ordered it from me, remember? And I sort of forgot about it. Here's this nice big tray for fruits. Where was it before Shabbat? It was just a big hump of clay. He made it. No, this thing was born on Shabbos. Mutar l'taltal. It's permissible to carry it and even to use it, like the way it's explained in Reish Nun Beis. Okay, well, even though that his mind was not on it yesterday to carry it, he didn't think about it. And usually muktzah is anything you weren't thinking about yesterday. Nevertheless, it is permissible to carry it on Shabbat. But on Yom Tov, you should be machmer in nolad, like was explained in different places. If the non-Jew makes something brand new for you, on Yom Tov, you should not use it. And maybe we'll just make one little more law over here just to show that it is, and we'll go back to this tomorrow. Terrible. There we go. Similarly, all vessels that are permissible to carry that break on Shabbat, and the pieces that are left, the resultant pieces of this broken vessel, they're not fit for the original thing that you used them for, but for something new, something different. For instance, you had a big kneading trough. You have a big, let's say, I'll take our example we had. A big plate, you could bring fruits on it and serve it, and it breaks. Now you can't put fruits on it, but what you can is you can use it to cover over a cup of coffee. You have a hot cup of coffee, you want to cover it over. You can use it, you can use it. Or a broken vessel or glass to cover the top of a bottle. Right? The bottle so a fly doesn't go in there. You're allowed to move this, even though it's a totally new purpose. It's nolad, it's something born. That's called nolad, and it is permissible to do. You made a new vessel, and it is permissible on Shabbat, but not on Yom Tov. The only time a broken vessel would be permissible on Yom Tov is Ela Im Kain, unless it broke before Erev Yom Tov. Then the broken pieces are already prepared to be used. This new purpose, they're prepared for this new use while it was miba'od yom, while it was still day, and others, while it was before the holiday. And then it's not really considered to be nolad. It's not really something new because you were thinking about it. Okay, finished. Should we try to learn the laws of the Beit HaMikdash? We don't have much time. Oh, well, we took a long time today, huh? We should learn the laws of